everybody, and welcome back to the Dev Morning Show at Night. I'm your host, Cassidy Williams. I am here with my wonderful co-host, Zach Plata, and today we're going to be getting into the holiday spirit and looking back at some of our favorite moments on the show.
I am so excited because there were so many just like picturesque moments during this, all the episodes.
There were so many good ones that were it's hard to pick from them because I genuinely enjoyed just chatting on so many episodes, and also so many of them actually did stick with me where I refer to them and I'm just like, I'm referring to our show. That's pretty cool.
Heck yeah. But to start, can we just talk about your lighting situation in the back of your room?
Get
it is
in the
glowing.
Spirit. Thank you so much. We've got
wearing
ugly sweaters on.
Yeah.
Mine says Fleece Navidad. And it's got a little sheep on it.
Mine
it was on
is
clearance.
I got this years ago. Sorry.
Oh, it's like Stranger Things. I like it.
It's a Stranger Things holiday-esque kind of thing.
Nice.
Yeah, that was fun.
I think I got it. Like that's pretty good. What's your favorite thing about the holiday season?
I think it's the decorating. I think it's like the vibes of, like when you're ready to put up decorations around the house and you put on like Elf and you're sipping hot chocolate or whatever it is. Good. It's just a vibe. And
it's so cozy.
Yes.
I like the cozy vibes are so nice. The food in general, like I love that just like eggnog and pumpkin pie are a thing that is common everywhere around this time of year. That's all I want to eat and consume, and it's great.
So, yes to pumpkin pie, and I'm going to be outing myself a bit here.
You don't like eggnog?
I've never tried eggnog.
You've never tried it? Zach, come to my house.
I know.
Oh, are you kidding me? It's so good.
It's not that I'm like disgusted by it or anything. I think it's just like I've never gone out of my way to try the thing. But I imagine it tastes like vanilla custard and thick milk.
That's about right. Honestly, and I'm sure there's going to be like some purists out there who are just like, that's not what it tastes like. It honestly tastes like melted ice cream to me, which is great.
Okay,
it's
I'm down for that.
A little bit thicker, but it's so good. And I never really spike mine or anything. I truly just get it from like the grocery store. And eggnog ice cream is another level. It's basically vanilla ice cream, but with whatever that flavor is. I don't know what is nog.
I don't know. I had no idea there are ice cream flavors of this too. I'm sure there are, but
Zach, gosh.
All right, I'm sure I made a few like enemies today, but it's okay. Another new thing to try for the
show.
That's true. What are your plans for the holidays?
We're mostly just sticking around here actually, which should be nice. Nice. After we record this episode, we're doing like a little family trip and stuff, but that's before the holidays. And then I think we're just kind of sticking around home, which should be nice because a lot of times you travel to see in-laws or family or various people and stuff, and I think everybody's coming to Chicago this year, which I'm very happy about because I don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, trying to deal with flights or long car drives during the holidays. It's a nightmare, a pain.
The airports are not a fun time around this time of year.
Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah. What are your plans?
I'm going to be one of those travelers, but I will not be flying. I'm going to be driving 9 hours to Kansas for my partner's 9-hour holiday. And it's going to be, let me preface this. So we have a new puppy, right?
Oh yeah.
We drove 45 minutes to the burbs for Thanksgiving, and my puppy puked twice.
Oh no.
And like once on the way back home. And so I'm like, I had no idea you have to like car train or whatever a puppy, and now I'm like 9 hours. I am terrified of what's
that's
gonna
be that's gonna be a long trip.
Yeah.
You might want to do like some short trips for the next like couple weeks. That's stuff to
Yeah, I want
prepare.
to do that for sure. Like this weekend, just do some like little training and build up.
Yeah.
But
Oh no, the poor thing.
I know. Well, speaking of building up, it's time for our lovely sponsors who build up developers and companies um, with awesome software. So, the Dev Morning Show at Night is a sponsored podcast. It means someone has to pay the bills around here. We're sponsored by LaunchDarkly, and LaunchDarkly is the first scalable feature management platform. That means dev teams can innovate and get better software to customers faster. How? By gradually releasing new software features and shipping code whenever they want, fast tracking their journeys to the cloud, and building stronger relationships with business teams. Thanks for the money, LaunchDarkly.
Before we get into our favorite moments on the show in general, we should give you a look into who the heck we are, because we've been around on this show for a minute, and we're strangers to you. Zach, could you tell us about Rive and how you got to this point in your career, what you do there?
Yeah, so at Rive, I work in DevRel there. I'm their first DevRel hire, which is really fun and really interesting kind of situation there.
Hard,
But
too.
yeah, it's got a lot of challenges, but it's been super fun. And I think what makes it fun is the technology itself. So Rive TLDR is basically a way to build like animated and interactive content in an editor that's very much like kind of Figma, kind of After Effects ish kind of thing, trying to bring back like Flash back to the web and make the web fun again. And the other part to, building those animations is being able to export it out into your apps and websites and things. And so it's got like open source libraries that help you do that. And so I help try and build a community around, people who are trying to bring more fun and interactive content into their applications and all that good stuff. And it's been fun. So I like DevRel. I know we've talked about this in the past with several different people, but it's like such a breadth of a field where like one day you'll be working on documentation. Yes, so many different hats. And it's been different because like before this, I was mostly doing like front end web development for several years, working in JavaScript, HTML, blah, blah, blah. And now it's more of kind of a generalist role. And it's been interesting to learn of like other things outside of JavaScript. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Well, and it's like both generalist and specific because you have to have specific skills to do the role because it's such a communication oriented role too.
Exactly. And so, when I'm trying to learn like all these new technologies, my first thing is like, okay, how do you do this in like Swift UI? And I'm thinking in like JavaScript terms, like, oh wait, a thing, and so
There's no DOM.
It's fun. Yeah, it's a lot of learning. It really is truly like I figured it, be an easy transition because it's like, oh yeah, I've been a dev, like I could probably do this, but it's a whole new kind of tool set that you really need to do the job effectively. And so it's been fun trying to transition into this.
Yeah. Well, and it's been cool too because I've like tuned into some of your streams and stuff, and it's such a different kind of tool for developers because it's developers and designers that can play with it and build stuff with it, and the website is cool. I really like just animations and stuff in general, and you make me want to play with it, so I guess you're doing your job well.
Perfect. I think that's my job.
You're done. Send this clip to your boss.
Yeah. Boom. Raise. Anyway. Well, what about you? How did you, end up at Contenda as the CTO of all things, and where you got to in your career to get here?
Yeah, and so as folks who have seen the show for a little bit, I did not start as CTO as Contenda when this show started. I was working at Remote before, and I was really liking that role, but it was not as technical as I wanted it to be, and it was also just kind of in a weird time with like the economy and various things where I wasn't able to fully do all of the interactions with developers that I wanted to do. And so it was something where I was kind of doing the job, but I was open to possibilities. And then we had Lily Chen on the show, who was fun and entertaining.
So great.
And great. Which, go find her episode. She's the monk who learned how to code. And I had been hanging out with Lily and chatting with Lily a bunch for a while. I've been an advisor for her startup Contenda for ever since it started. And there was a point where she reached out and she was just like, hey, so we've been thinking about how we need a CTO soon because of where we are fundraising wise, where we are technology wise. We need like some more leadership and stuff in the company. Would you consider it? And it was kind of a no-brainer. It was something that I immediately was just like, dang, yes. But I did have to think about it a little bit just because I didn't want to act too rashly. But then after getting on the call with my sister and being just like, I'm thinking about this role, she's like, you're going to take it. Just take it. And
she knows
there you go. So anyway, I ended up in this role. And so what Contenda does, which once again, if you've seen Lily's episode, you know this, but I'm going to tell you again anyway, is it's a generative AI startup that creates content from existing content. And so if I were to give a conference talk, record a podcast, write a blog post, whatever, we can take that video and create a blog post about it, or take a blog or video and create a tweet thread about it, or create highlight clips from it. And it does it all automatically with the power of AI. And it's really interesting because, first of all, I haven't touched artificial intelligence or AI in a few years, and so it's kind of like it's all coming back now. A lot of things, yeah, a lot of stuff is coming back into my brain from the AI stuff that I used to work with several years ago. Yeah. But also, there's so many AI companies out there now, and you see like people making art with things like Midjourney, and people writing marketing copy with like Jasper and Copy AI. And these are all these generative AI tools that are similar but different, because that is more, the phrase is like prompt engineering, where you kind of tweak your prompt a bunch to be able to get the output that you want. But with Contenda, we do no prompt engineering whatsoever, because it's just pulling from your content. And so if your conference talk talks about a topic, the blog post will also talk about the topic, but it's also not a transcript. And it also depends a lot more on actual technical accuracy, because we include code samples in the output blog post, even if you don't show code samples in your talk, but you're describing code. And so it's been really interesting to see the challenges of that, to work with the team on that, and even just testing that. Figuring out how to test accuracy of code samples has been a very, very interesting problem that the team's solving.
And I think that code samples thing is the coolest piece. That it's like mind-blowing. It's like,
yeah,
I'm not even talking about, line by line, what you would type, and this thing would just generate code snippets about like what you're talking about. It's kind of like that like whoa moment when what was it, GitHub Pilot, right?
Oh yeah,
came out,
Copilot.
and
yeah,
it was just like, you wrote that
by yourself? Yeah. It's
scary.
Technology is wild. I have to just say, like, work in AI before AI replaces you. But yeah, it's been really cool getting to do that, and the team is small too. I really like being at a small company. I haven't been at a very small company in a minute, and it's been nice being at like a less than 10 people company and just kind of working fast and iterating with our smaller team too.
Yeah, I feel like there's like a lot of freedom and less like pressure of like ancillary politics or whatever environmental thing might be going on, that allows you to like really speak freely and share ideas easily. And it's kind of like a little fun hackathon, but for your job.
Yeah, and you get to really solidify and establish a culture at this stage too, because a lot of times you kind of join a culture and you're like, how do I fit in and add to this? But when you're on such a small team, it's just like, I'm creating this from scratch, for better or for worse.
That's true.
And it's exciting to be at that point in the company. And also in a leadership position, it's pulling in a lot of just knowledge from previous roles and being like, yes, I've done this before. I could be on this sales call because we don't have a salesperson. So that's me and Lily, and saying like, oh, sure, I can be on this fundraising call because I've talked to VCs before. Right. And a lot of it is learning as you do it, and a lot of it is just kind of hoping your learnings from previous jobs are enough.
Right. I think it's pretty unique that you got insight into, how the company is run and, how it works as when you were from your advisory work with them. So,
right.
As opposed to kind of going in cold and being like, oh, is the grass greener on the other side? You had an idea of, what it all was. And so that's pretty awesome.
That's very true. And that's something that I think in general, people should try advisory roles if they can find them. That was something that I didn't actually know existed 2 years ago. Like, I think I first discovered what an advisory role was at like mid-pandemic, which is such a weird time to say, but like end of 2020.
Sure.
Where I was talking with someone and they were saying like, oh yeah, well, I advise these companies. And I was like, what does that mean? Are you just like chatting with founders on occasion? They're just like, well, it's a bit more involved with that than that, and kind of learning how to give your expertise to companies in a way that's valuable to them, and then them providing value to you, whether it be with relationships or with ownership in the company or things like that. And it was something where, once again, I didn't know it existed. And then after kind of saying, I like advising companies, I think it could be fun to do, and kind of putting it out into the ether of the universe, there's a lot of advisory roles out there if you look for them and say that you're open to them. And I think anybody out there listening, if that's something that interests you, you should try it out, because it's really a fun way to be involved with a company without being in the every single day-to-day of it.
That's really great advice. I honestly, before you entered your advisory role, I had no idea, because I just assumed like, oh, it's people that have like dozens and dozens of years of experience and
right.
a lot of money to do all the investing and advising and stuff. But it's cool to hear your perspective about it and how, accessible it is as a role.
Yeah. And like, granted, you're probably not going to advise Google or some really massive company, but there's so many startups that could use your expertise just because they haven't hired for a certain role before, or they haven't done a certain thing before, they haven't had experience with X, Y, and Z. And you might have the specific experience they need, where even if it's just like a monthly call where you say like, oh, this is what I would do because this is what happened when I worked at this company, or this is what I would do because this is my inclination as a possible customer for you, or something like that. It's really helpful to them, and it's one of those things where it feels like you're giving back in a very, very meaningful way, because it's actually affecting a company's roadmap and stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, let's talk about the show, shall we?
Heck yeah.
Let's look back at kind of some of our favorite moments from the show so far. Is there a guest moment that stood out to you, Zach?
Okay. This one was fun. It was with Cammie, your sister.
Hey.
If y'all remember that episode where we had Cammie on, she's an engineering manager at Meta, and she talked about her story of how she broke YouTube in France when she was at Google. So let's take a look back at that clip and reminisce.
What's a story of something that you broke?
Oh no. I do actually have a answer for this that kept me up many nights.
Oh no.
So when I was an engineer at Google, I mentioned that I am not a front-end engineer. And
where's this going?
So I had to learn things kind of on the job. And it definitely wasn't the first thing I pushed, but it was one of the first things I pushed to Google Slides. I got code approval and everything. It was approved, so sent out the PR. Everything seemed fine. But then the next morning, I had so many messages from people in France. And it was because I broke YouTube in France.
Oh, gosh.
It was... I don't think it was all of France. It might have been a specific region, But I just remember thinking that I was going to get fired. I didn't get fired, but it was absolutely horrifying and very sad because I had to then like roll back my feature and start from scratch.
Oh gosh. You could make a joke about that. It was like, oh, it was broken in a specific region of France. Everywhere else it was just sparkling broken. You know, like the Champagne region and stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't get it at first. So.
There you go. Gosh.
Maybe don't share that joke at a party.
Fine. Maybe don't break YouTube in France.
Too soon.
Yeah, that was a fun episode. It's particularly fun because like I enjoyed the back and forth roasting. There were multiple times where people messaged me after the episode saying like, this was the most sister interaction I've ever seen. But it was also just fun to kind of hear that kind of background, and also it's nice and humanizing when someone breaks such a large website.
Yeah. It really puts into perspective like, oh no, you broke your test environment. Well, you know, there have been worse things, and it's good to talk about all these things and normalize all of the pain we suffer as software engineers and developers and yada yada.
They've been doing so many interesting things with the metaverse stuff and all of this virtual world stuff. Even though I think there's still a long way to go, the fact that it's more of a normalized conversation has been really interesting in general, and hearing her talk about that was cool in like a professional manner, not just her calling me after work saying like, I broke something today or something like that.
Right. It's good to talk about it as like a learning experience, and you know, things happen. Yeah. But speaking of, have you ever broken something big like that?
I'm trying to think. My first week at Netlify, I broke the website. Just like netlify.com. Luckily, everybody was very cool about it, and they said, hey, welcome to Netlify, as I was like, I'm so sorry, and I was able to do like one of those instant rollbacks. And so that worked out well, but yeah, that's the biggest one I can think of in recent times, but I know there's more. What about you?
We just suppress it.
Yeah, actually though.
I think I broke a login screen kind of once. I was like tweaking some CSS things, and then I pushed it up. I was like, fine. I was just trying to move, like, you know, those password inputs, and they have like the I at the end where you can show your password, whatever. I was trying to like move it over a pixel or something to align with the design. I pushed it up. I was in the middle of conducting an interview for someone at the company, and then someone bursted in and they're like, Zach, you need to roll this back. You broke it on Firefox. And I was like, what? No. And I didn't check Firefox because I don't test Firefox often as I should. But
now you do.
Now I do, because the I that was supposed to just shift a pixel, it blew up in size and actually just took up the entire, it overlaid the entire login form. And it was just like, oh, oops.
It's always very humbling when something like CSS breaks a website, because you're like, it's not logic. It's just like making something look good, and then you realize how powerful CSS can be by destroying something.
That's for all the people that are like, CSS is not programming.
Just like, yeah. Things. Look at all these websites I've broken with it then.
Exactly. Okay, so going back, which guest answer kind of struck with you the most based on some of our questions?
I really liked speaking with Taylor Poindexter. She had so many just awesome nuggets in general in our conversation. I really liked what she had to say about just being a manager and how it's hard to come by good ones, just because there's so many good and bad ones out there, but you kind of have to find them. Let's hear what she has to say.
I got into management because I knew what it was like to have a bad manager. I knew the impacts that can have on you. And I feel like I'm a pretty good people person, and I'm very empathetic, and so I wanted to give that to other people, basically just interfacing with my team and trying to figure out exactly how I can make their lives easier and how I can remove blockers for them, in addition to obviously finding ways to make sure that our processes continue to become more efficient.
That was so good. I totally relate to that. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to what Taylor had to say there. And I think it's really good that she kind of like, has that background in, I've had bad managerial experiences and I just want to, be better for the people moving forward. It's like,
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
and it's something that I think, especially before, I do think it's improving now, but a lot of people think in order to move up in my career and continue to improve in my career, I have to be a manager. And so I'm going to be a manager, I guess, even though they might be more well suited for an individual contributor role, an IC role where they are coding, but they're doing more like architecture, big tech lead type stuff. There's so
Sure.
many options, but that's just people go for like the big titles of being a manager of some kind because they think that's what they have to do. And that can really affect your team and affect your team's performance. That can affect so many different things. If you as a manager don't actually want to be a manager, or if you end up having a manager that kind of just wants the title and power and the growth
Right.
on their resume rather than actually wanting to be in that kind of role.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think one thing when I started out my career, it was like, oh, it'd be great if I could grow to the manager role. Like, one just assumes, because I would, be able to get paid more and have awesome benefits and stuff
Right.
like that. At one of my last companies, it was they actually paid like if you were at the same level like entry level managers, the same as like the same like equivalent IC role. So it was like if you
That's
wanted
how
to
it
stay in
should
IC
be.
route, like there really wasn't. You were encouraged to do so, and moving to manager was only if you really wanted to, embrace that kind of role and career path. So there really was like no bias or big benefit to moving to like an M kind of role.
Yeah. I love that is true because I want that to be prevalent everywhere. Like
Yeah,
that's how it should be. And hopefully we see more of that in the industry because it would be better for everyone if everyone stuck to their strengths and not just what they think they should be doing.
agreed.
Yeah. But in addition to the actual work stuff, we like to talk to our guests about their lives outside of their jobs, what hobbies they have, what they get up to on the weekends. Let's hear what they have to say.
What is your go-to karaoke song?
Ooh, okay. I am an 80s girl, 80s,
Yes.
90s.
Keep
I
going.
was briefly in a cover band in college, or subbed for
Oh,
Fast Times, 80s. Um, I think I've learned in my time with karaoke that you got to do one that gets the crowd like pumped up. So I used to do ballads. I used to do Total Eclipse and like How Do I
yes.
Get You
Excellent.
Alone. But I now am in my Celine Dion era, so I'm
Ooh.
really into like I Drove All Night, some Dolly Parton, I think is always
Yep.
a good choice. Like you want to leave them partying, like Party in the USA, also a bop if you're
That's a
like
great one.
depending on the
Yes.
crowd. I feel like I also have to feel the energy of the room. If I'm at a piano bar, I'm gonna do like a Maybe This Time from Cabaret kind of thing. So
Can
yeah,
we
it's all about the vibe.
can we please go karaokeing together? Because you have literally named every one of my favorite karaoke songs except for Like a Prayer, which is
Oh yes, yes,
also
yes.
excellent.
During COVID, like many other people, I decided to pick up a COVID hobby. Unfortunately, it was not anything useful like crocheting or learning a new skill like cooking. I decided to um become a gambler and get invested in Pokemon cards instead. So
You're one of
I'm one
those?
of those. Yes, I'm ashamed to admit it, but I
Wow.
started really getting into Pokemon cards because I had some when I was a child, and I realized my childhood collection could have been worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then I went home, and my parents told me they tossed it away many years ago. So that was very
No.
heartbreaking. Um,
Oh,
so I went kind of real deep into that. They're kind of like stocks. They go up,
they really
yeah,
are.
they
It's
go up, they
wild.
go down. No rhyme or reason to it. So I did spend an embarrassing amount of money, buying packs, um, and ripping them open, getting some cards, and then sending them to like these official grading companies to like look at my card and tell me like, yeah, this is a good card, and then they like grade it from 1 to 10, and if it's a 10, you can resell it for like way more money because 10 is like the highest score you can get. So yeah, that's a whole thing.
I've been going back to voice lessons, singing again. So I think it's been like kind of an adult passion that I've had. I really, really love singing. My register is really high, so I do a lot of like Disney princess songs. But that has led me to really wanting to be a voice actress for Disney type roles or animated roles that, you know, have this like aura of wonder and like longing and like coming of age and discovery. So I've been trying to figure that out, and I don't know how to do it. So if you have advice, if anyone has advice, like I feel like a fish out of water. I really want to do more of it. I love reading stories. I love like embodying a character. And then I'm working on different vocal techniques to, I don't know, use my chest more, use my stomach more, articulate.
That's so cool.
Yeah. This is bringing back to a time, Cass, we had that one conversation once where you're like, we should get vocal lessons. Chloe's here. She could give us vocal lessons.
I don't know about that.
Now.
I struggle with it. So I low-key, you know how you always do like ad reads? So
yeah.
So whenever I do content and I work with brands on ad reads, I kind of use that as like a way for me to practice. And I just record over and over again to see if I really like the sound of the word. But like imagine if I could just do, I don't know, audiobooks, to do long form or animated shorts. I would be so joyful. Yeah.
Outside of being a developer, I mean, okay. I still think of myself as a baker, even though I haven't baked in a while.
Ooh.
I like to think of it as being on hiatus. We are waiting for that stroke of inspiration. But at one time, I was baking like cakes, like cupcakes, cake donuts, tiered cakes. I got into like buttercream painting, and that was really fun.
Buttercream painting?
Buttercream painting.
I haven't heard that term together before. Like maybe I've seen it, but is it what it sounds like?
Yeah, so have you ever seen like acrylic paint? Like it's like if you see it in a painting, you could see the texture. Like if there was a glob of paint on there, you could see that it's a glob of paint. It's a similar idea, except instead of like painting on a canvas, you're painting on a cake. And instead of painting with acrylic paint, you're painting with buttercream.
Oh my gosh. And then you get to eat it.
Yeah.
And then you get to eat it.
I love what Chloe talked about with the karaoke choices.
She and I have the exact same choices in karaoke songs. And ever since we recorded that episode, all we really do DM each other on Instagram is karaoke stuff. It's like karaoke stuff and the occasional meme about like Celine Dion or something. And it is the core of our relationship now, and I am not sad about it. I'm very, very happy because I love singing those songs, as I sang Celine earlier in this episode.
What is your go-to karaoke song?
My go-to is Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Ah, classic.
Love singing that one. What about
And
yours?
everyone can join in. Everyone knows that song.
I know, right? Especially
Hopefully.
if you're just like, okay, everybody do like the turn around, and then you go deep in it. And it's very fun too, like, if that's not your first song, because you know your voice gets a little raspier towards the end of a karaoke session. So like you can really go like, I really need you tonight, like, and just go into it.
Yes.
So fun.
We need to do another karaoke session.
We do.
Soon here.
I went to Korea recently, and they have what's called it's coin karaoke, where you go in and it's truly just like a little booth. They had tons of them like at arcades. They were everywhere, where you go in and it's 50 cents per song to just sing karaoke. And so people would be just like, oh, do you want to sing for just like 10 minutes? And they just go and do it. And I loved that
That is
about
so
the culture.
cool.
It was so fun. Yeah. And we ended up going in and we were just like, yeah, let's just sing a few. And I think we did a Madonna song and then Let It Go from Frozen. Had a blast, and then we went out to eat.
That is
What
such
more
a good
could you
time.
Yeah. Oh, we need more of that here.
Yeah. Come on, U.S. cities. Let's pick it up.
Let's make it happen.
Let's get
That's
it.
our next startup, Zach.
Yeah. Okay, we'll talk after this.
We're not joking. But yeah, Pokemon, you know, what more could you want? I
I love that Christina got so deep into people opening the card packs and stuff, because it's such a specific thing to be into, but a lot of tech people are into the Pokemon opening card packs things. I've seen a lot of that, and a lot of pandemic hobbies in general have come up that are very specific like that.
For sure. I only noticed that through TikTok. I had no idea that was like a big thing in the tech industry. But it is fascinating. Like, I'll just be like, oh, why is this a thing? And like 5 videos later.
Yeah, it's a whole thing, and like there's like the art and way of doing it. Who knew? There's a hobby for everything.
I am all for it.
Yeah, for real. And the voice acting stuff that the other Chloe said, like I wish. I don't know anything about that world. Like she kind of gave us a little bit of insight into it, but it's that I think it'd be so interesting to hear about just more of the lives of voice actors in general, and how you get into that.
It's like, because I know like with regular acting, you usually you get your headshots and you try and find an agent, and they try and find you things, and it's like, is it the same for voice actors?
Yeah,
we should have asked.
And Chloe had such the perfect voice for Disney princess voice acting and stuff.
It was good.
I feel like if I ever tried to do it, it would be just like, that's definitely just Cassidy, but with a higher pitch. Like the acting behind it is very impressive in general.
Totally. I went after her episode to like visit her TikTok because she referenced it a bunch, and I was like, oh, this is like professional. Like these are the people who's know what they're doing. And I was like, go Chloe.
Yeah, it's a skill that like you don't realize how deep a skill it is until you like actually look into the art of it, or you try it yourself and you're like, oh, I suck. Oh dang. These people know what they're doing.
Go Chloe.
Yeah.
And then Thui's buttercream painting. I think that was so fascinating. People are artists. Yeah. It's an art form I would have never considered, but I'm sure is a huge thing on the baking shows, and I'm sure there's a big community around it.
You know that there's like some sub hobby genre of this kind of cake painting and stuff, and I'm all for it. I think that kind of stuff is so interesting. Which reminds me, I don't know if you've ever heard of the subreddit Hobby Drama.
No.
It is a delight, and I highly recommend looking that up, because all it is people detailing stories of drama in very specific hobbies, and you'll be just like, oh, I didn't know that this yarn dyeing hobby existed or something, and then you find out some drama that happened in the yarn dyeing community, and it's so entertaining.
Okay, that is literally what I'm doing with the rest of my Friday, because I love
right?
those. It's like the chess scandal that happened months ago with Magnus Carlsen.
That was in Hobby Drama. I know all about it because of Hobby Drama.
Did you hear about the I think it's the bass fishing scandal that happened?
No.
Maybe it's not bass fishing, but it was some fishing competition. Someone, this like assumed winner was just winning all these things because they had the heaviest fish every single competition. They're like the best of the best. And it was, I think one of their competitions, they caught one and they're like, this weighs this much. And then someone in the audience called it out. I was like, no, it's not. And the audience kept like, examine it, or something like that. This is all, by the way, third party told by my cousins over Thanksgiving. But still. Inside the fish were like other cut up fish and like I think like metal, or they were stuffing things down this fish to make it weigh more, and it was like a whole scandal. It went, and these people made money off of this thing, so they're in trouble, of course. Anyway, this sounds like very appropriate for that Reddit thread. And
oh yeah, no, I want to look up bass fishing on Hobby Drama too. Like I've learned about like beekeeping drama. I've learned about like the acrylic painting cup community drama. There's so many different things there, and I love it. It's like being on like a fly on the wall of the room where like people are arguing and you're not involved at all, but you're just like, ooh, it feels juicy.
Right.
And it doesn't affect me personally. It's awesome.
Okay. This is great. I'm glad something like this exists.
Yes, it's so good. Love the internet.
Everyone's like outside hobbies. It was super fun just like hearing, you know, what they do. And it's like, oh, I wouldn't have expected that.
Right. Especially because like it's the human side of software development, because a lot of times people are just like, oh yeah, you code and there you go, that's it. But being able to hear what interests people, what excites people, what kind of gets them going it's cool to be able to see that side of people in general that you just don't normally get to see.
For sure.
Was there any advice that you took to heart from any of the episodes?
Yes. My favorite one is from Sarah Vieira, where she questioned whether or not TypeScript is necessary in every single page application. Let's take a look.
What's something that's underrated or overrated in the dev community, in your opinion?
Something that's incredibly overrated, I feel like it's TypeScript and code quality. I feel like TypeScript is good. I don't precisely hate TypeScript. I just think that we all need to stop. Like, we all need to stop, look around, and wonder, does this single page application that has 2 pages really need TypeScript? Does it really need TypeScript in this styled components? It does not. I'm going to answer that for you. And that's my thing. Why did I say think? That's my thing. So I do think it's very useful when it comes to like state management and design systems and stuff like that.
Right.
But I'm like,
I think it's good in large teams because it like forces people to stay within certain boundaries and stuff. But on side projects and smaller things, I agree with you.
It's also like, would you use prop types for this? No, then why are you using TypeScript for it? Like, why?
It's so true. Because I know the value of TypeScript. I know the value of types and all of that static analysis and all that. But sometimes it's overkill and you just need to ship.
Yes, totally. For something that's just like a small marketing page or a small little one-page
a little
tool.
demo or a prototype that you might be building, something you might toss away, anything. Sometimes you just don't need it.
Yeah. I'm glad we can both agree on this.
Yes.
and what about you? Was there any advice that you took to heart?
Honestly, not as specific as TypeScript, but I really liked Salma's advice, Salma Alam-Naylor. I really liked what she had to say about building first and engineering later. What is your golden rule for coding?
Build first, engineer later.
Ooh, expand.
So this works on a personal level, at a team level, at a product level, at a startup level, at any feature iteration level. Just build something and get it out there. Don't over-analyze the types of code you're writing. Just don't add too many tests straight away. You know, just like get something out there and deploy it. So if you've seen me stream, you'll notice I release a lot of websites after I've spent 2 hours on building some kind of prototype. I'd have got no CSS. I've got no anything. Let's put it online because I can, right? And once it's out there, it's kind of like, it's a thing. It's like you've achieved something rather than sitting on it for months and months and months and months and months and obsessing over the quality of it and being a perfectionist and like, oh, maybe that should go there. Maybe just build it, get it out, go deploy it. And then if it works, if it's something that you want to carry on doing, if you've got the data that says that maybe this is something that the world needs, then go and engineer it and, separate your concerns and have one source of truth and make it dry. But when you're just prototyping, just build it. And don't stress and see what happens.
But yeah, very similarly, it's good to just build something and not think about the overkill of scaling and adding too much early. Like if you can just ship it, then you can always add more later.
That's true. And I think it's important, especially if you're like at a smaller company, to be able to have that kind of culture that allows for just like, let's just build it today and try it out, and it doesn't have to be perfect.
Right.
I know that's a little harder in, bigger companies where all they think about is scalability and, cost and all, yada, yada, yada.
Not
But I
having
think
to
there's,
rewrite stuff later.
yeah. And it's just important to have those kind of days, whether it's like through hackathons or, every Friday we have like a hack day or something like that. I think
Right.
it's more fun to develop code that way.
Yeah, that's something that has been interesting once again at my role at Contenda, in that because they're so small, they do that a lot. And now that we're building like more customer facing things, we're caring a lot more about testing and stuff in general. But
Sure.
because I've kind of witnessed them from the start growing and changing and pivoting and doing all of that, it's kind of funny just seeing how the attitudes of the engineers have changed over time, where at first they were kind of nervous, like, okay, we'll try to build this, it might not work. And after having all these experiments of shipping and certain things failing, certain things succeeding and stuff, now they're like, let's just build it. If it doesn't work, we'll rebuild it later. And everyone is just so much more chill about it. And I feel like it's a really good thing, not only for actually shipping products fast, but just the attitudes in general, where it's less stressful because you know that you'll be able to improve it.
Yeah.
It will get better later. Sometimes you just need to ship the thing that's a little broken so you can have a thing that is mostly working out there in the world.
Yeah. Engineer later, build first. Love it.
Exactly. Well, that being said, we are out of time. It has been a delight. Thank you, everyone out there, so much for tuning into this special holiday episode, end of year episode of the Dev Morning Show at night. Happy holidays. See
Happy
you
holidays.
next time. And once again, because making podcasts is expensive, this show is brought to you by Launch Darkly. Launch Darkly toggles peaks of 20 trillion feature flags each day, and that number continues to grow, and you should use them. You can head over to launchdarkly.com and learn about how. Thank you for making this show possible, Launch Darkly. I've been Cassidy Williams. You can find me at Cassidoo, Cassidoo, on most things, and I'm CTO over at Contenda.
And I'm Zach, and I'm a DevRel at Arrive, and you can find me on Twitter at Zach Plata.
Thank you for tuning into the Dev Morning Show at night. Make sure you head over to our YouTube channel where you can like and subscribe. You can also listen to the audio version of this wherever you get your podcasts.